For this bonus review, we travel back to the Spider-Man cinematic universe, kinda, to be introduced to a new character known as Michael Morbius in the new superhero film called, you guessed it, Morbius. It is directed by Daniel Espinosa. It is starring Jared Leto, Matt Smith, Adria Ariona, Jared Harris, Al Madrigal, Tyrese Gibson, and that is all I will say as far as who's in the movie because of spoilers.
I'm pretty sure that it's not a spoiler when you put the person in every commercial and trailer.
Did they really put the person in the trailer?
Michael Keaton is in every trailer for this movie. All three versions of the trailer that have existed have shown Michael Keaton.
See, I haven't seen the trailer, and I'm on my phone when the Morbius trailer shows up in the theater. So
that's reasonable.
It. Okay. Well, Michael Keaton's in this movie, and I thought it would be a spoiler to say that, but apparently it is not a spoiler.
If you go on IMDb, it's the second name that shows up.
Oh, dear God. They don't care. All right. No. The plot synopsis, according to our friends over at Letterboxd. Dangerously ill with a rare blood disorder and determined to save others suffering from his fate, Dr. Michael Morbius attempts a desperate gamble. What at first appears to be a radical success soon reveals itself to be a remedy potentially worse than the disease. That actually sounds like an amazing movie. I wonder when we'll get to see it. I want to be fair for a second and say that this is not the worst superhero movie I've ever seen. I'm struggling in the moment to think of like the post-theater walkout experience of like, wow, that was a mess. That's worse. The Fantastic Four movie with Michael B. Jordan and blanking on his name. Guy who played
Kate Mara,
Miles Teller. Yeah. That was pretty bad. I actually don't like the Ben Affleck Daredevil, but I can understand people do.
Elektra needs to be up there.
Halle Berry's Catwoman. Like, perfect. There have been
Jonah Hex.
There have been worse superhero movies. But I went in with extremely low expectations, and there's a meme that I have saved in like my meme folder of the person with the sign at the rally that says our expectations were low, but holy fuck. And that is my thoughts, immediate thoughts about this movie. And I gave it a shot. Like Oz can tell you at our critic screening, I sat there, I wrote notes, I was engaged. And then at a certain point, I just put my pen down and was like, this is not worth it. And I'm wondering if you reached the same point I did. I guess I'll ask you, Oz, you have a really well done review on the Invention of Dreams, but any further thoughts on Michael Morbius and his origin story?
I have a lot of small thoughts on this movie, and they kind of coalesce into a hall of utter hatred. And it's because I don't think that anybody involved with this movie gives a shit about this movie. It is one of the most cynical cash grab sort of films I can recall in recent memory. It does not in any way feel like Daniel Espinosa actually directed this final film. It reeks of studio tampering and some sort of producer re-edit. To be clear, I don't want to see the Espinosa cut either. Like I'm good with this. But I think it's abundantly clear that this is a movie that was finished by a non-filmmaker, because the piecing together of parts of this movie makes no sense whatsoever. The character arcs don't make any sense. It's not actually clear to me. We don't talk after we go to these screenings. We try to keep it pure for the podcast, but I couldn't help but ask the question: is Morbius the good guy or the bad guy of this movie? And unambiguously, they're trying to tell you he's the good guy, but the actions that he commits, the way that he behaves, his sort of psychotic obsessiveness, and all of the murdering, make it not so difficult to reach a conclusion that Morbius is in fact the bad guy. And I think it's largely because of the incompetence of the editing. I think actually in some ways the Matt Smith character the bad guy in the movie, is more understandable in his motivations, makes more sense as a character. There's one scene in the movie where it's very clear that he has this like magical office in the world's wealthiest hospital where he can do whatever experiments he wants and keep thousands of bats in like a giant blue jar in the middle of the room for some reason. Down the hall, like 4 doors down, and they make this clear in one of the cuts, is the room where a little kid lives with no family and for some strange reason has both a Yankees pennant and a Mets pennant on the wall in the room where she lives, which is really weird and gross. No offense, but fuck the Mets. So
fuck the Yankees, right back at you.
There we go. So for some reason, he'll just like check in from time to time and do like, I guess technically Leto's a medical doctor in addition to a research doctor, and does really doctory things like, I don't know, inject something into the line into her arm so that she can get like magical medicine to cure her stupid disease in this. Mm-hmm. But it's the sort of movie that has so little care that when they clearly establish the structure of the building that has a hallway that needs to be walked down to get to her room. But later, when something happens when they're in the room, the characters can just magically see back into his lab. It speaks to a total lack of care or concern about anything that's gone into this. There are plenary criticisms to throw at MCU movies, everything from like their anti-sexuality to their sameness. There are plenty of things you can kill them for. Those things are made with care. They're crafted with precision. The people who look at those movies actually give a damn about if they're good or not. Like, people hate Eternals, but no one comes away from Eternals and says that was entirely incompetently crafted. They come away from it and go, that didn't work at all for me, or that was boring, or those characters didn't work for me. But it at least looked pretty good. It was at least staged in a way where you could tell what was happening in the action scenes. This to me felt like torture from about 30 seconds into the movie, when I think it's actually literally the third line of dialogue in the movie. Morbius lands at I think it's literally called like the Island of the Dead in Costa Rica or something like that. Lands there in a helicopter, gets out of the helicopter with his like team of mercenaries or something. Again, it makes no sense. Is on a cane because he has this blood disorder that makes him need a cane for some reason. And somebody else asks, "Oh, do you need a doctor?" And just humorlessly, Leto responds, "I am a doctor." And at that moment, I was like, oh no, this has been allowed out into the world in this form, this script. Someone said, here's $90 million. Go get him. And it's my head hurts just thinking about the fact that this is the movie that they chose to make. Like there's so much meddling with it. It's clear it's not. I don't think Daniel Espinosa is a terrible director. I like Safe House. I think Safe House is pretty good. I think you told me you like Life.
I do.
Like, he's not a terrible director, but god damn, this thing is bad.
So I will say, Leto's not. I didn't hate him as a performer. Like, I didn't hate this performance. I think he's just under a lot of CGI for most of the movie for me to even consider like that he's bad or like your normal annoyance of Jared Leto. So he's doing this experiment and again turns himself into Morbius, and we'll just say what happens. He's counting down at the second he can go without needing blood. And so he gets it to where the fake blood that he synthesized and created, that is like the reason why he's a well-known scientist and doctor, lasts him for about 6 hours, and it keeps getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So end of the movie, you're going to spoil that he like saves the day and wins, but doesn't he still have the same problem? Like, that doesn't get solved, that he still needs blood every 6 hours, which again doesn't clarify whether or not he's a good guy or a bad guy. He's still
it was down to 4 hours at the end or something.
Oh, it's still down, like, because that never gets resolved, which is because at the end of the movie, or at least in the third act, he, as you mentioned, Martine Bancroft, Dr. Bancroft, they're working on like the next level of experiments, and that doesn't go anywhere. They just go to the roof and have an intimate moment for some reason. Like there's no reason for them to be together other than that they work together. And that's why I said, like, for a lot of the movie, like my standards were low and I was like, okay, fine. I don't need my superhero movies to be fun. And then it just went off the rails. Who takes him to get the bats in the beginning?
My guess is that they're the similar versions of the mercenaries who I think work for Matt Smith, who take them out onto the boat for him to do his Morbius experiment later.
So it's illegal.
I don't know. I don't even understand what the experiment is. Is he killing those bats? What is that like magical scanner? Is he bloodletting the bats?
Yeah. And then he's like, but he's synthesizing the fake blood that he's known for like worldwide. But
he already did that. Yeah, he already did that.
But isn't he doing that? So he synthesized he created the fake blood.
The fake blood doesn't matter. That's just a thing he's done in the past.
It's completely different. Okay.
He's getting vampire bat blood at that point to do his like genetic encoding nonsense from the bat blood that he's collecting with the like machine that he raises up. In fact, if you go on the inventionofdreams.com, the picture that is the lead picture for the review is him holding his hand up in front of the stupid machine, which I guess is somehow taking the blood of the bats with guitar strings.
And where does Matt Smith get his money from?
Yeah, like it's not even. We're not even doing a Cinema Sins thing. Like these are basic.
No, I'm genuinely
points.
asking.
Like he's a billionaire.
Yeah,
in this movie, like very clearly, and there's just no explanation. In fact,
about a whole boat that nobody's able to track. Like,
and he's playing the like I'm the dummy failure and I could never live up to you card throughout the entire movie. Meanwhile, he has like the biggest apartment that anyone has ever owned in Manhattan and can pay for this incredible lab for his buddy just like on a fucking whim.
And a helicopter to go get more
helicopters.
bats.
He's a billionaire. I mean, he is richer than Logan Roy, and there's just no explanation whatsoever. From a dude who he was abandoned. He had no family. His parents abandoned him at Jared Harris's weird blood orphanage. And that was that.
And there's not like a Norman Osborn situation here either, where he's got like an alter ego where he's a good guy. Like he's anonymous to the world.
Yes.
Because of his condition. And yet he has all this money
and apparently just like drinks martinis during the day all day. And that's all he does. Yeah. No idea.
Okay.
I would like whatever his job is. It looks great.
Yeah. Cause you get to make all this money and just not have to answer to anybody. Just sit in a room and watch TV and like you said, drink all day. I don't know how this fits into any type of larger plan for Sony. If they're thinking that this is like, hey, Tom, look, we've now like extended the universe. And I'll just say like the mid-credit scene, Michael Keaton through the multiverse ends up in this world and asks to team up with Morbius. And who cares?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, who cares? I don't care about the next chapter in the Morbius story. And I don't know who will, to be honest.
Leaving aside that it doesn't make any sense that Morbius, who is apparently trying to be a good guy, is going to be like, yes, I will team up with you, scary person in a robot bird suit. I would like to be your teammate going forward. Leaving the stupidity of that aside and all of the like plot holes of the fact that Toomes should be pulled back to the other universe when Spider-Man No Way Home ends, or the simple reality that that character's motivations were like, protect my daughter, make money to support my family, and be pissed off at Tony Stark for, essentially running me to the brink of bankruptcy. That's an understandable character. That I think Homecoming in some ways, I'm not going to find out which is the best, in some ways is the most effective of the Holland movies because Keaton's villain arc is so well defined and because the character makes such sense. I think for both of us, he's a top 5 MCU villain, and they just poured him over here with no thought whatsoever. I mean, there are reports, I think reports beyond even rumors at this point, that these are all reshot Stinger scenes because they just like kind of didn't know what to do. There's one there's one scene in the trailer of Keaton where he says, "What's up, Doc?" to presumably Morbius. That's not in the movie because that was scrapped. I've heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard that they shot a scene of Morbius, Carnage, and what's his face? Scorpion, Michael Mando from Homecoming, escaping jail in this, when this was going to come out before Let There Be Carnage. And that was going to be the stinger at the end of the movie. But that doesn't really it doesn't make it any better. But
this is in prep for for some type of Sinister Six, right?
Yeah, everything's in service of Sinister Six. That's why Craven is the next one of these we're getting.
Listen,
Craven has a really good director who's written and directed it. So I'm going to hold hope because I love JC Chandor. I think he's really good. He did All Is Lost.
Okay, yeah.
And Margin Call, he's good. And that movie with the movie with Robert Redford is awesome. Mm-hmm. Not the Old Man and the Gun.
Yeah.
That's really good. That guy's awesome. So I hope that movie doesn't suck, but I don't know how you could have any hope whatsoever after this one for anything that Sony is doing with these characters. And of course, we're recording this on Thursday night. It looks like it's going to make about $50 to $55 million this weekend, which means it's a huge success. It's obviously going to be profitable in its theatrical window. And this, I complain about Red Notice. This is another one. Nobody involved here cares. It's a pure profit play. I saw someone tweet, and it was really depressing, that in our current comic book freak out environment, Elektra would have opened to $30 million. And I think that's sadly true. They're the only things that people care about anymore. Toss 3 allusions to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in there, and Elektra would have made $30 million. What a fucking bummer. Can I let me say one last thing. The Adria Arjona character, and I think that actress is not terrible. I think the part is the worst part that I've seen for an actress in a major studio movie, at least as a lead role, in a long time. She's playing a doctor and a research scientist, the same thing as Morbius. Yet after apparently working together for years, she doesn't know the most basic details of what's happening in his science experiments. Now, obviously, this is all a device so that Leto can deliver exposition and explain to the audience all this stupid shit, which of course they can understand because they've seen a superhero movie before. Put the zappy thing in and hey, vampire blood and you feel better. But it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that she has to do this in a movie made in 2022. I feel bad for the actress. It's really a rough look, and I don't think it's her fault. You take the jobs you get, and I'm imagining that the script that existed on the page when they started shooting this thing back in 2019 was better than what actually happened on set. But good God, what a thankless role.
Okay. Last question before we get out of here. Does this change anything about your final review rankings for any movie?
I'll say,
is it the worst of the Spider-Man cinematic universe?
Oh,
is it? So the question is worse than Spider-Man 3 or worse than Amazing Spider-Man 2?
I think Spider-Man 3 is way worse than Amazing Spider-Man 2, but
those were the bottom two. Those are the ones you put at the bottom.
I do have this as worse than both of those.
Okay,
pretty comfortably, actually. Now that I think, I hadn't thought about it in those terms, but pretty easily, it's worse than those two.
So everything else moves up one. Gotcha.
Yeah, boy, it's really bad. And I'll agree with you on Leto. He's better here than House of Gucci.
Well, yeah, he's playing a human which is ironic that this is the human role that he's playing. But the exposition where he's explaining his side effects, I actually was quite enjoying that sequence where he's figuring out his powers and tracking the time. That's why I said I was on board for a while. And then I actually said this to you, we were in the escalator leaving. There is a moment, and I don't even know if this is a critique or just...
Oh yeah, what's your moment? I don't know your moment.
A different direction it could have gone. It's literally in the lab when after the hallway sequence has happened and the nurse is no longer alive. In that hallway sequence, when the FBI comes to investigate and they're interviewing Michael Morbius, and Tyrese comes over and just kind of explains away that he was in Afghanistan, and he said, yeah, you guys saved my arm. And it's clearly that they dubbed over the word ass because they didn't want to have that word in the movie. And it's Like the attention to detail that you cared about is so that way the kids, I guess, that see this movie don't hear the word ass. And it's like, that's the editing that you made sure you paid attention to. And then they're like shooting at him as he's flying up the scales. Like, oh yeah, shoot at the flying vampire. That's worked so far.
But Tyrese's character, and I don't know who Simon Stroud is. I understand that he's a character that exists in the comics, but not one I'm familiar with. Tyrese has said that his character has a like weapon robot arm. It's not just the blood that saved him. It's like a weapon robot arm. And I genuinely could not understand what happened in the rooftop at the end of the scene you're talking about. Like I couldn't comprehend what it was. And I think that's because he was using his like magic robot arm to like stop Morbius with magic robot powers. And that's why Morbius just like froze at the edge of the building for some utterly ill-defined reason that's never addressed again.
I think that's actually the moment that lost me. It was that entire sequence where he escaped through the rooftop and then you see him on the roof and it's like, all right, so you're going to fly off, right? No, he says freeze. It's like, oh, well, you got me, officer. One of the worst superhero movies I've ever seen. One of the worst movies I've ever seen. I'll take it out of genre for a second. This is bad. And I'm not going to speak as doomsday as much as you are about the fact that this is going to make money, because I have faith in people that they will see the people that have reviewed this movie and seen how bad the scores are being. And as a result, they're not going to go see it next weekend.
The reviews are out and the rumors were out before the reviews. It's not as though we were unaware of what we were going into. The junket screening and the premiere down in Mexico got the word out that this thing was very bad. And the tracking has only gone up since the reviews came out. It was 30 to 35 million like at the beginning of the week, and now it's up at like 50 million. Now I understand there's like nobody's been to the movies. It's not even true though, but I was gonna say no one's been to the movies since the Batman, but The Lost City just did really well, like last week, and it go see The Lost City instead. Let's just leave it.
Really
The Lost City's fun. Yeah. It's good.
The way we'll wrap up. Name a movie people should go see besides Morbius. That's opening near them, because if you're gonna say,
I was gonna say
all at once. No.
I have to think of something that's actually out in theaters. I know it's probably still playing. Go see X. X is worth seeing. I think
seen that yet.
It's good. It's violent. It's pretty funny. It actually cares about the humanity of its characters. It is a mashup Texas Chainsaw Massacre and porno movie. It's about shooting a porno, and that like characters who go shoot a porno like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre land. I have some quibbles, but overall I think it works quite well. I would recommend it. I think Jenna Ortega and Brittany Snow and even Mia Goth, who I'm not usually a fan of, are quite good in this. So I would definitely recommend seeking out X if you would like to see something in a movie theater this weekend.
Oz, we mentioned the only two that I would recommend go seeing, unless you want to go see Spider-Man No Way Home, which is still in a theater. Moon Knight is now available on Disney Plus. So if you want to dive into good superhero content, the latest Disney Marvel MCU show is up. I watched episode 1, was quite blown away by how good it is. Oz has seen it as well and also enjoyed it. So that will be my endorsement. I know it's not going to a theater, but maybe save your money for when the next actual good movies hit theaters, and then that'll be fine.
Guys, turn off the lights in your living room and watch Moon Knight that way. And every element of Moon Knight is better than every element of Morbius. It's really good. I've seen 4 of them. It gets better. It's really good.